Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Media Buff Guys, the podcast about anything and everything media related. I'm your host, Ed, and with me are my fellow co hosts, Jen, Matt, and Lane. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, for this episode, we're probably gonna get some flack, but honestly, we don't mind. We actually kind of welcome it, and we're gonna talk about Joker 2 and
Come
why
at
it
me,
probably
bro.
shouldn't. Yeah, and why probably shouldn't have gotten so much hate as it's getting, and why it's not the worst DC movie out there or worst movie out there in general. But before we begin, a quick word from affiliate Maono. Maono is the leading company in budget-friendly mics. If you want to sound like we do, even if you're doing via Zoom, not together, you can definitely buy their stuff for affordable, very affordable price. Not only do they sell in over 150 countries, they tailor make everything for whatever it is you need. And if you use code word MediaBuff, you can get 10% off your first purchase. Right now, they are actually having a giveaway. So if you want to check them out, go to their Instagram at Maono Global. So for a
Or
chance to,
our Instagram. You
or our
posted it,
Instagram for that matter.
right?
Yeah, it's all on my YouTube. So links will be in the description below. But as mentioned earlier, Joker 2. I mean, on the spectrum, me and Jen on one side where we think it wasn't like that good, and Lane and Matt like absolutely loved it. Is that right?
I
Yeah,
thought it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did too.
But I think the one thing we can all agree on is that it doesn't deserve the hate that it's getting right now. It really doesn't. I can admit to that because even though I didn't really liked it, there's a lot of aspects to it, and it did tell a really good story. Yeah,
I just don't really know what they were expecting to happen. Like, he got arrested at the end of the first movie. Where was he going to go? like,
exactly. Yeah,
you
quick.
know, I think, yeah, I don't know what really people were expecting to happen except for him being in jail and then him going to trial. Like, I don't understand why people were so upset about that. But
Hmm.
What I think it is, the reason why people are so upset is because they probably thought that this was like a Joker origin type movie, like the first one. And then when they got their sequel, it was going to be like, the clown prince of crime doing his
Hmm.
antics. I think that's what they were expecting. But even like watching the first movie, if you have any sort of brain cell in between your two ears, you can see that it's not a comic book movie.
Yeah.
It's something else entirely. Yes, it does take place in Gotham, and yes, he's called the Joker, but it's not the Joker you think it is.
Hmm.
And like I said, if you could pick up on that by watching the first film, but I think a lot of the people who watch these movies I think a lot of them are people who get their comic book information and everything else from viewing these movies.
Agreed. So, quick synopsis of the film takes 4 weeks after the events of the first film. After the murder Joker committed of five individuals, not including his mom. In the live television execution of Murray, the stand-up. I don't know if he was a stand-up comedian or just a talk show host,
he's like one of those late night
like
TV
Yeah,
Conan
shows
like
O'Brien,
like
right?
Conan
Conan,
and
Yeah,
J
Jay Leno
Lo,
esque.
all of
uh,
those.
Yeah,
Hmm.
fucking. Well, didn't Joker take place during the '70s? So he'd be more like a Don Donahue or
it's just a
whatever
late
that.
night talk show host,
Yeah,
basically. So in this film, we see him still in Arkham. He's undergoing trial for what he committed, and the entire time, the persona of Joker is getting fed onto the public, and they're supporting it. While as the character they introduce, which is Harley Quinn, which is Lee in this one, played by Lady Gaga, and she's basically stoking the flames the entire time, trying to get him more into his role of the Joker as the trial proceeds. The entire time he's having like I wouldn't call them episodic episodes, but he's basically imagining certain events in his mind the way I guess he wants it to go. And it's just building up to the point where he finally I wouldn't say snap, but he gets to the point where like this is who I am. I'm the Joker, but then unfortunately something happens that basically breaks his spirit and he falls back on that, causing the people to basically turn their back on him, only for basically somebody to bomb the courthouse, which he uses a chance to escape. Tries to find Harley, only to basically get shot down and gets arrested, sent back to Arkham, and basically the movie wraps up as a red herring. So if you haven't seen the film, I would definitely recommend you watch it just for that. I'm not going to spoil the ending because it's actually a surprisingly good ending, and I think they did a really good job with that, just to not only entice the comic book fans, but to piss off the Joker fans, because I think a lot of the Joker fans were not happy with that ending, right, Lane?
They weren't happy with the entire movie. Like the people that were obsessed, like really obsessed and really into the first movie and pushed so hard for a sequel, I feel are the ones that like hated it the most. They're the ones that walked out of the theater. They're the ones that like gave it like negative reviews on like every platform to just kind of just make that movie bomb as much as they possibly could because it wasn't up to their expectations of what they wanted the movie to be.
Yeah,
When the movie should have never even existed in the first place.
that's true.
It was
The,
just
the the people
forced
who
upon them
created the
because
first one, yeah.
people were so demanding and adamant about a second movie that was never even supposed to happen. It was just supposed to be one standalone film.
Hmm.
Um, so be careful what the fuck you wish for sometimes.
That's
Moral of
true.
this story.
Well,
Were you gonna say something, Jen?
And it wasn't just those fans of the first one that were disappointed. It was also critics because we went to a pre-screening of it, and as soon as we walked out, I don't know if that guy was supposed to say anything, but he openly admitted, one of the critics that was there, invited to critique the film, was said it was freaking hot garbage.
Yeah,
That it was really, really bad. That if he could give it anything, he would give it a 0 out of 10.
yeah,
I was like, oh wow.
yeah. But I mean, like Jen and I say, it wasn't a to us it wasn't a great film, but it wasn't horrible. My only complaint was there was too music in it, but I wasn't aware it was a musical. It wasn't until you guys told me that, and then I watched it again this time knowing it's a musical, and I actually it seemed a lot better to me after that fact because that finally got out of my mind. I was like, oh, this, why is there so much singing in this? The only gripe I really have now is one particular song that just dragged on. But everything else, not only was it pretty well told, it flowed in a way where you can see his psychosis literally breaking. And it was a very interesting way on showing somebody's mind basically turning into what the Joker becomes down the line.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a good story, as a lot of people call it, as a shine a light on mental health issues.
Yeah.
And it's one thing a lot of people I think fail to grasp, that they went into watching it as a DC movie where it was just a Joker movie, basically talking about why he is the way he is or why he turned out to be the villain that he is.
or at least that version of him,
That version
because
of him, yeah, because
he has a
I-
million different
Yes.
origin
personas,
stories.
yeah,
And this was just to be a depiction of one of those.
exactly.
Yeah, and so, but are you done, Ned?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, good.
Okay. Well, okay, in that case, well, like you were saying, like the movie is about mental health issues and like how the system fails people
Hmm.
who have mental health issues, right?
Hmm.
And so, first of all, like even if I didn't know it was a musical and I went in watching it, I thought that was a really cool and interesting take on how they would tell the story.
Hmm.
Because if you remember in the first movie, a lot of it is him on stage trying to perform his comedy acts,
Yeah,
and then like him envisioning himself on
the
the
Murray
Murray
show.
show.
Hmm.
And like the musicals were just like that.
Hmm.
Like when you went inside his head, and this instance is more based in a musical. And I have to ask which song dragged on, because to me, for it being a musical, there wasn't enough music. Yeah, there's a lot of like musical scenes in the setup, but like when I think of a musical, I think I'm expecting to have at least 4 or 5 songs that are like 5-6 minutes each, like in Phantom
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
Opera,
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera, or Repo the Generic Opera, or Moulin Rouge,
Or
like, or
Chicago.
Chicago. Like when you watch a musical, like there's like really big musical numbers,
Yeah.
and like there wasn't that in Joker 2. Like, yeah, it was frequent, but like there was like no major like 5 to 6 minute musical number. And
Yeah,
that
I
I
thought we
was
only got like a minute and a half, maybe two
yeah.
minutes at most, and then it like moved on to the next scene. So it wasn't even
Hmm.
like full length, like yeah, musical numbers like what you were saying.
Well, there was
So
3 full songs sang. The first one
Hmm.
was actually by the Joker in the beginning of the film, where they tell him that he's gonna basically they're going for execution in the trial, and he sings.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the song, but he's singing. At least there's somebody to love me. The
yeah,
second song was by Harley when they're trying to break out, and she's singing. I don't know if that's Entertainment or if it's another song, but she does it. She basically does the entire musical as they're like breaking out. And then the third one, and that's the one that kind of like dragged on to me, was they're gonna build the mountain on a little hill, and that one basically was just them going full Monty and doing a full musical number with Joker dancing the entire time, and Lady Gaga just playing the piano and singing the entire time. So those are the 3 full lengths songs they had. Every other song was a verse here and there. Some sang by Joker, by Arthur, some sung by Lee, but those are the only 3 full songs they had. But to me, yeah, that third song just dragged on too much. And it was mostly because I just didn't really like the song. Because that whole thing where
Okay.
we're gonna build a mountain on a little hill, that made no sense to me. To me, at first, I was like, well, they're probably gonna build a mountain out of dead bodies. Because my first instinct was gonna be like, they're gonna go on a killing spree. Because they've done that, they've done that in other comic books. Harley and Joker have gone on murder sprees, and they have built mountains out of dead bodies before. If you read any of the comic books, you know that when they go on
True,
murder sprees.
but we don't know what the actual thing was,
Yeah.
what that means. We're gonna build a mountain on a small hill
Yeah,
because
that's one
like
question they never really answered.
this isn't
they
like
asked her that in the
class.
courtroom when she says it. They're like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah, what does
And
that
she
even
just like
mean?
walks off, like she doesn't even answer like that question
She
with all
doesn't
the
know.
reporters.
She doesn't
She's
know.
like, I just dropped bars. Leave me alone.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But like we're saying, like, it's not a terrible movie, even if there's parts of it we didn't like. Me and Jen didn't like, and there's parts that you guys obviously liked all of it. Um,
It, oh, really?
go ahead.
No, it definitely I think you at least have to watch it twice. One, so you can get the first impression out of your head, and two, so you can actually know what's going on and actually take it in as the way it was meant to, be
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah, like watching it a second time definitely, because when I first watched I did make the mistake of treating it as a comic book movie. And the entire
Hmm.
time, like, no, that's never happened in the comic books. Like, why
Mm-hmm.
is Lee the one who's basically the predatory character in
Mm-hmm.
this film, where it's actually Joker? And
Mm-hmm.
the entire time, the second time I that was finally able to get that out of my head, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized, like, okay, like, this is actually a pretty good story of his descent into madness. My only letdown was that they didn't build up on it, or they didn't capitalize on it. They just ended the film with a pretty big middle finger, in my opinion, to the fans. But at the same time, it was such a good way to say, like, we got you. This whole movie was a red herring the entire time. And it was a good
Yeah.
Yeah.
ending. Like, I love that ending.
Yeah, talking about that ending. Halfway through the movie, I kind of saw that
You
happening.
suspected it, right?
Yeah, but like, how do I say this without spoiling it?
I know. I
Because
mean,
like, okay, okay, I got it. So, like in my head when I was watching the movie, it comes down to two characters and like with that same outcome.
exactly. That's actually a pretty good way to put
I
it.
just didn't know who it was gonna be or and how it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then like I ultimately thought like both of those characters would be involved, but they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially like when they're doing like the Sonny and Cher type of musical, and then that event happens. I'm like, ooh, that's some foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, you know what part I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
No, I know
Yeah.
exactly the part you're talking about.
Okay.
And I also recommend that whenever if whoever is watching the movie really pay attention to the songs they're singing, because I didn't notice it the first time, but the songs they're singing, a lot of them have some exposition
Yes.
that not only plays into that particular scene, but maybe even tells of what they wanted the outcome to be. And if you listen to the last song that Arthur sings in the end, it kind of basically says what he wanted out of this whole entire ordeal. And
Mm-hmm.
when I heard it again, I'm like, oh, now I'm wondering, like, was he aware of this himself the whole time, or is this just another thing that the producers threw him to say, like, here, this is what you get at the end? Because forget you guys, we don't care.
My theory is that all the signs were there from the start of the film,
You just got to
and they
really pay
just
attention.
yeah, and you just
Backgrounds.
gotta like pay attention to the breadcrumbs
Yeah,
because like before I went to go see this movie, it was Lane who pointed that out that like Joaquin Phoenix and the director they didn't want to do a sequel. Like it was supposed to be a standalone film.
yeah.
And like and the way it plays out, the way they did it is just a giant middle finger to all those people that demanded a sequel.
Yeah.
And well, WB, the current bastards that they are,
Mm-hmm.
like um they're like, okay, yeah, you guys have to do a sequel because money.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
if the studio tells you to do it, you're gonna have to do it.
mhm,
They run the show basically. Um, one thing that I thought was pretty interesting in the entire film, and I don't know if they did this on purpose or maybe they were going with this originally and then they decided not to, but in a lot of the scenes you can see Joker's aggression getting a little more heightened. For instance, in the Sonny and Cher scene, you can see that he's about ready to, like, clock Harley for kind of stealing the spotlight. And
yeah.
that was my first thought in the entire film, is like she was
Just like
kind of
that.
stealing the spotlight. And he was basically getting to that point, like, you keep stepping on my toes and I'm gonna have to put you in check. But they ultimately didn't deliver and they just like decided to go with the ending that they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the whole time that I watched it too, I thought that for a couple of times I'm like, I thought they were gonna go in a different direction. I'll be like, nope.
Yeah, like they had the build up and then they just like, nah, never mind,
Yeah,
we're
and
going this way.
that's part of why I was like, huh? It's kind of lackluster to me because of that. Because there was high end points, and then all of a sudden they're like, nope. They turned back around to something else.
They're like, no, we're not going with that one. Like that climb. You're not getting that climax.
And that kind of like freaking irked me. I was like, oh, what?
You're like getting there. It's like, oh, I'm almost there.
Yep.
Nope.
Denied.
Go to
But
my
I mean,
climax.
eh, eh, but the ending has make it, it makes it make sense. You
Yes.
know, like once you get to the ending and you like understand like why the film was made the way it was, it just makes it so much
Oh
better.
yeah,
And so
and
that like when you do watch it a second time to see all these things, you're like, oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah, that's why, and everything just makes more sense.
and Lane,
So
you were the one who pointed that out. That is basically a big troll to the fans, right, or to the ones that wanted
Yeah, definitely. I think everything they did was just intentional. I think
just messing with us the entire
it's
time.
just served a big purpose. Like the musical scenes made everyone so upset, but I don't understand why, because even in the first movie, like there was music. Like
Hmm.
Arthur was always like doing his weird like
Yes.
dancing to music that only he could hear
Hmm.
and playing these scenarios and fantasies in his head. And then all they did in this movie was show us the music that he had been playing in his head and showing us the fantasies that he had been envisioning for himself like through the whole first movie. So I don't understand why people didn't get that connection. Not to mention like when he meets Lady Gaga and they're like in that therapy and then the person who's in charge of it is like singing is like a form of therapy and healing and getting through stuff. And that's was really insinuated, and I think that's a big reason why there were so many musical numbers, is because he's working through all of this shit that he's going through, and he's using music to do it because that's what he was told he should do, like in the beginning of the movie, right? I think that Harley Quinn's character was meant to represent all of the fans that wanted the movie, wanted it to be Joker so bad, wanted him to be the Joker, and they
Only for it to
obsessed
be.
over it. And Harley Quinn represents all those fucking people. Toxic, like she was the villain of the movie.
She really was.
She didn't care about Arthur as himself.
Arthur, yeah.
Only cared about Arthur as Joker. And that was what everyone's obsession was with the first movie. It's like, he's the Joker, it's the Joker, the Joker. But it's like, no, he was never the fucking Joker. He just was a guy that like just got tired of being kicked around and taken advantage of, and no one taking him seriously. And it, you know, and then you realize all the fucked up shit that his mom did to him that he didn't even realize happened. And that was like a huge like snapping point for him, like when he tipped in the first movie. And I think everything they did was extremely intentional. You know, like after his first like musical number, when he comes back from his first musical class and he's like musical therapy, and then he's singing to everyone. You know, they foreshadow how what the ending of the movie is going to be. You notice the person, he's just the only one that's standing in the back, leaning on the wall, not singing with him. I don't know if you guys noticed him.
Yes.
I did.
I
Like,
noticed him too.
Anyway, as soon as I saw that
Yes.
guy, I was like, this guy is going to be something. I didn't know exactly what it, you know, I was like, he's going to be a major part because he's the only one in this fucking room outside of the guards that's not
Singing,
really reacting to what Arthur's doing. And I just think it was really brilliant. I think, yeah, I just think it was so intentional, and I just think it was like the biggest like FU to everybody. And especially when we got to like the courtroom scene, and he's kind of explaining to the jury like how I'm not the Joker. I'm just a guy who fucking murdered 6 people. My name's Arthur. Like, I'm not like this person like you think I am. And I feel like that was just directly geared towards everybody in the theater watching the movie. And then, you know, all the people in the courtroom
they walk out.
just got up and walked out.
The symbolism.
The same exact thing as all the people that got up and walked out of the theater because they were so pissed off that this wasn't what they wanted. It's the same exact thing, like same energy, right? Same energy. So you know, I just think it was like everything that they did was just very intentional. And I think like their whole message to everyone was like, this isn't like the character that you guys wanted him to be. Like, this isn't the Joker. This is just a dude who's got some really bad mental health problems. The system has failed him time and time again. And he just broke. Like, the straw broke that camel's back, and he just lost his shit. And I think that was when he found out all the fucked up shit his mom did to him. And now she was just obsessed with Bruce Wayne, and he didn't, like, there's no connection. You know, it's just like his whole life was a lie. And then to go on to the show that he was so obsessed with, and then just have that host just make fun of him, like, you know, it was, I think
That
it
was
was
the tipping
great.
point,
Yeah,
it was like he says in the
says
in the first one. It's like, what happens when you push someone around too far and they finally snap? You get what you effing deserve, and that's what happened. What were you gonna say, Jen?
No, it's just there's one quote that he says that just stuck with me, and I'm like, oh my god, because it's true. Because just like Harley and everybody there, they were pushing for him to be somebody that he's not. He's like, I'm not gonna be what you want me to be, you know? Like, that's not what's going on or what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, so I think it was great. And then once you realize that that is like what the movie's trying to do, I think just makes way more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And everything just like clicks. And like the whole time I was watching it, I was just like, oh man, this is just so great. Like I don't understand why people are upset. Like
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, and
the
Jen actually
music
thought
is
you weren't gonna like it, Lane, after we had watched it. Like, ooh, I don't know if Lane's gonna like this or not. And we even told you, like, hey man, like, go in there, but like maybe with half expectations. And you're like, what are you guys talking about? This movie's awesome. I
so great. Yeah.
was
But I
like, oh,
also
okay.
wasn't one of those people that went in with like the mentality like this is
A
a
comic book
comic
movie.
book
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Yeah.
I really like when I started watching it, the first movie, I picked up really early on that it was nothing to do with the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
It was everything to do with like this guy just like losing his psyche and just snapping.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went into the second one, I also tried to keep like that open mind of like, okay, this isn't a comic movie. This is just the continuation story of this guy that just fucking murdered fucking 5 people, 6 people if you count his mom, because he
Mm-hmm.
did murder her.
Yeah.
Well, because they
And
pushed
yeah, I
them.
don't understand. Like I was kept hearing that like people were mad because oh like they were just stuck in 2 locations the whole time. Well, where the fuck was he supposed to be?
Yeah.
Where
Where's he
else
gonna
was he
go
gonna
besides
be?
Arkham?
Hey,
Yeah, like the first movie, you see way more of the city. You see more stuff, so you don't feel like you're kind of stuck in just these 2 areas. But like he
Where
gets
else is he gonna go?
arrested. Where else is he gonna go? What else is gonna happen? Um, yeah, I just thought it's a movie for people with more of an open mindset
Yeah.
instead of such a closed mindset, which is what fucking most of like the people that like became obsessed with this movie. Um, that's they're the ones that are upset.
Yeah.
well,
They're the
And
ones that
that's
hated
why,
it.
yeah.
And I think the only thing I have like issues with is they did cut some scenes out of like the trailer that they gave us that weren't in the movie, and I thought that was kind of weird to not include those scenes.
They do that a lot.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so they
yeah.
cut out a few scenes that you're just like we're expecting to see, and I just kept
Yeah.
waiting, just being like, oh, this is the part where this is gonna happen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't, and so that's where I was like, oh, that's kind of weird,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever. You take it with what it is.
What were
So
you gonna say, Jen?
Hold on, okay.
Were you gonna say something, Matt?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, first thing I was gonna say is that like people complaining about it only taking place in 2 locations, they don't appreciate good art because my friend John told me about this, but like the movie The Whale with Brandon Fraser, like his comeback movie takes
Yeah.
place only in his apartment. But you
Uh-huh.
forget that because of how good the story is, how good Brandon Fraser's acting is, and that's what happened with me in this movie. Like I really like Joaquin Phoenix. His acting was great.
He did good, yeah. No, he did
And
a
same thing
fantastic
with the
job.
rest of the cast. Like I thought, like her portrayal and her role, Lady Gaga, like she could fucking act.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and I like, and leading to the next thing I was gonna say, if you go into this movie watching it cold,
Mm-hmm.
like, but obviously seeing the first one and knowing because it's obvious in the first one that it's not a comic book movie,
Mm-hmm.
like you should see that coming for the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another reason why a lot of people are just upset, those like hardcore fans of the movie, is they also wanted like an exact carbon copy of like the first one,
Mm-hmm.
in which they kind of got that because the story's told in a very similar fashion, just done in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Honestly, the hate
Like,
is getting is because honestly, I don't think how people always they never really know when something's about, like they just like skip through it's like skipping through the summary of something like a book and just getting to
yeah.
that without knowing like firsthand, like they tell, because if we were told that it was a musical,
yeah.
but I'm
They
pretty
announced it
Yeah.
sure
was gonna
people
be
like fucking tuned out that part.
They sure
Yeah, I
did.
wasn't aware it was
They
gonna be a
sure
musical.
did.
But here's my question with
No.
that. I mean, musicals are good, but do people just not like musicals anymore, or do they
I
just
I
guess
mean,
not
I
have?
like musicals, but this one just didn't resonate.
just think about it this way. When we watch TikTok, we've gotten down to like really like,
1 minute.
1 minute things, And if
Yeah.
something drags on more than that, people just like tune out and be like, well, this is boring, you know?
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe it's that it has to a lot to do that our attention span is not what it used to be for the new
Y'all
generation.
need to
No?
read more books.
Well, yeah,
Like
but like I said,
5,000-page books.
this generation is so used to like 1 minute clips, 30-second minute, like it's not what it used to be. It's not like 5 minutes, 10 minutes anymore. It's like we've gotten down like to like a minute.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me personally, I feel like if they had gone the story in a different route, especially when they do the breakout scene where Hardy sets fire in Arkham and they're out and about in the courtyard, and it looks like they're about to break out. Had they gone through with that and then had them break out and then automatically start like a crime spree, I think fans would have liked that because they wanted to see Joker in action because they saw his origin in the first one, right? I think
Hmm.
Yeah.
everybody was expecting this to be, or not origin, Joker assuming the role of, like you said, Matt, the crime prince of Gotham. So if they had gone in that route where they break out of the prison, do a bunch of crimes while doing musicals, by the way, because if you've seen the animated series, there is a lot of music when they're doing
Yeah.
crimes, especially they're doing crime sprees. So if they had gone down route, I think the fans would have been more pleased. But like you had said earlier, Lane, this was just a big middle finger to the fans.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah,
those people.
so
I feel like
so
it
they were
really
like
was.
this film was
Yeah.
like, nah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna give them what they want. We're gonna give them what we want, and this is what we want. But either way, just looking at the scenes in the courtroom, the way they have his psychosis just like getting worse and worse was such a way cooler way to explain, his descent into madness that other iterations have done. One particular is the scene where he's basically getting criticized over and over again, and he's saying the Joker is me, where and that to me felt like he was assuming the mantle. And even in
Mm-hmm.
that scene, he freaking kills Dent and he kills the judge. And you see Harley putting, blood on her face, like becoming his psychic or whatever. You
Hmm.
see the aggression in it. That to me is like, okay, he's assuming the mantle right there. And then they decided, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to deliver that.
Yeah.
This is what I
Well,
meant, that like they kept building
yeah.
it up and then they just didn't deliver.
Well, I think a lot of like the reason why like they built it up and then it didn't deliver is the
Because of the ending, yeah.
well, no, not the ending, but like when he took over being like representing himself, like he fired
Mhm.
his lawyer, right? And then
Hmm.
the next day he comes in with the fucking clown makeup after they did that musical number or whatever.
Yeah.
And the witness is like the little person that he worked
Yes.
with.
Mr. Puddles.
And yeah, forget
Gary
his name. Yeah.
Puddles from the first one.
Yeah, but then like that whole scene was really intense. Like him talking to Arthur and then him just being like, "You're the only one that was ever nice
Mm-hmm.
to me," and they were the only two people that were ever nice to each other,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and everyone else was just an asshole to the both of them.
Yeah.
And I think like after that happened, um, after he talked to him and figured that out how he felt,
Mhm.
and then he goes back, and then he goes back to the courtroom. I mean, to the jail, and then the jailers are like pissed at him for what he said about them, right?
Yeah.
Like that the jailers are like fat fuck or whatever, some shit.
Yeah. Constantly
And then
messing with
they
him.
just fucking like like literally stripped him down, like
Yeah, that was a
ripped
hard
his
scene to
clothes
watch,
off,
by the way.
washed his face off, everything. And I think like after those scenes, like that's when he finally like is what made him realize that like no, maybe I'm not actually like
This
this
individual, yeah.
persona like everyone is pushing me to be,
Mm-hmm.
that Harley's pushing me to be, that all these people outside the courtrooms and everything are pushing me to be. And I think,
Mhm.
once he realized like that, I think that was like the moment where he was just like, no, this
He
isn't
gave up, yeah.
actually
He gave
who
up.
I am. Like, this is all not real. Like, and then, of course, stupid fucking Harley's like, oh yeah, I'm I'm like some rich kid from like upper state and both my parents are alive and all this shit was a lie. And by the way, I bought that apartment that you and your mom lived in. And he's like, I don't want to fucking go back to that fucking place. Like, are you fucking crazy? Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck, bitch?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
really like made her out to be like a very predatory villain in this
Oh,
one.
for
So
sure.
Dude,
much
For
to the point.
especially when she dropped that line, I'm pregnant. Like, what
Yes.
the fuck?
I was like,
I
no,
don't
you're.
even
I
think she
was like,
was.
no, you're
I don't
not.
even think she was at all. At
No, she
all.
wasn't.
I think that was totally just a fucking line that she fed
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
No,
She's
you
like,
only
well,
can
I'll
get
cross that bridge
pregnant.
when I come to it. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you
It's
only
just
can get
crazy.
pregnant if you're missionary. Like, those
It's
are the
just
rules.
it's just
no.
it's just that even her, she just wanted him to be, you know, her Joker. Like
Yeah.
her fantasy. That's just her fantasy, you know?
Yeah. It just
She's
seemed like
like
she
an
was more of the
obsessed
Joker than he
fangirl.
was.
Yeah.
She was just like an intense, obsessed fangirl.
Yeah. But
That's
she
like what
felt
she
more like the
was.
Joker than he did,
Yes.
especially in scenes where she's basically telling him like, "Don't take your meds. You gotta. Like, I'm proud of you.
Mhm.
You're good. See. You listen to all those people who are here to support
Yeah.
you. Just pushing him to become that Joker.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was weird to see that because again, the first time I watched it, the comic book mentality, knowing that she's the victim in those iterations, and he's the one constantly talking to her like that, and basically treating her like crap and being the predator that he is. It was weird seeing that dynamic shift.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I just thought it was kind of interesting, like how she just was manipulating him the whole time because
Yes.
she was just obsessed with the Joker, just
Mhm.
obsessed with the
yeah,
Joker, which is, Harley Quinn is obsessed with the Joker. So they did get that correct. I mean, that wasn't wrong.
They
It's
just
just the
took it
way
in
that
in
she
the
was, how
yeah.
she became obsessed with them. They
Yeah.
didn't get that correct. Um, but I mean, that the whole reason, like, she wanted to, in the comics and the Mad Love comic, like, she wanted to go to Arkham to meet the Joker. She worked so hard to, like,
Mhm.
be his doctor, and then he
she wanted to cure
manipulated
him.
her.
Hmm.
But now they flipped it to where she checked herself into that fucking asylum herself.
Yeah.
Like, she was there in hopes that she would run into him,
Hmm.
so it was kind of the same, but like kind of different,
Mhm.
but the same
Hmm.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I get some of the elements to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
N-
Same.
But yeah, I definitely think she was just purely supposed to be like a fan representation, like personified in
Mhm.
in the movie,
the toxic
and they
fans
just used a
personified.
character that, I mean, what other character is that connected to the Joker outside of Batman? Which we aren't there yet, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't exist yet. So the only other choice they had was Harley Quinn,
Yeah.
because those are the only two characters. Well, they've changed it now.
Hmm.
Who gives a shit? But
Mhm.
what matters is those are the only two characters that the Joker had any like real ties to, was Batman and Harley. And we
Yeah.
couldn't use Batman. Our only other option was Harley, and then they just kind of tweaked her story a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
There was one scene where I actually thought, and again, this is another example of them building up a climax and not delivering. So, in the scene where the courthouse gets blown up and then he's stumbling out, these two guys pick him up. Now, if you've seen the Batman animated series, he has two henchmen called Judy and Punch, or Punch and
mhm,
Judy. I forget how he calls them. But basically, these guys have been with him in this version of the Joker. They've been with him since day one, since his initial emergence as the crime prince of Gotham. And then
So
these two
posse.
guys picked him up and they were driving away with him and they were clearly devoted to him. They weren't the ones
Yeah.
that actually blew up the courthouse, but they were ready to like basically do his bidding. And Jen and I thought like, oh crap, what if this is where they ended? And then, like these two guys are gonna be his henchmen that he has, and then he starts doing his crime spree. Nope, they didn't deliver that. Instead, he gets away and runs back to Harley, and I'm like, no. Stop building me up like that.
See,
You get me.
that scene, I was like,
I did not. I did not. Well, the
that
end
thought,
I did, but yeah, still. What were you gonna say, Matt?
I was gonna say that particular scene, that thought never crossed my mind that it was gonna end there because I had a feeling, I just knew it. Like the way the ending happened, like like I knew they just weren't gonna cut the credits right there and then lead into the next movie because of what you can pretty much figure out halfway through the movie.
Well, they're not gonna
And
make part 3, that's for sure.
yeah,
No.
it's so like all these parts where it like build up and then like you get and it felt like a letdown. Like I don't it wasn't I didn't get that for me because I didn't expect it to go anywhere in the first place because it's not a comic book movie.
Hmm.
I think that was the issue that like you're kind of portraying that issue like the
Oh
first
yeah,
time you
and
watched
that's
it.
yeah. When the
Like
first time I watched it, yeah,
when the first time you watched it, you were under the notion that it might end up being a comic book movie. But
Mhm.
now watching it a second time, you say it's a lot better because you get it.
Yeah, because I get it now.
Yes.
It's just the whole time of the I was just like thinking to myself like it's not a comic book movie, but I just kept getting like comparing it to comic books like it's not a comic book movie. Stop thinking
Yes.
that.
Yes. It took like I said, for us it took to watch
to
it
to watch,
two
yeah,
times in order to just be like, okay,
yeah.
first one we're gonna get all the the emotion of
That
it,
taste out of
all of it. Yeah. All of now we know it's a
it's
musical.
like
We
we
went in this not knowing it was one.
it's like when you take
So
the drag out, if you take that first drag of a cigarette, it's like gross as hell.
yeah.
And your second one is a lot better.
And you're like, wait a minute, I think I can appreciate this for what it
Uh-huh.
is now.
And that's the truth. I mean, like this movie should not have gotten as much hate as
No,
it got,
no.
and honestly, the acting was great.
Mhm.
Joaquin was great in it. Even Gaga
Yeah.
was good in it.
Yeah, she
Dude,
was not
even
bad.
Brendan Gleeson, who played Jackie the guard, that guy, I swear, at first you're like you kind of like him a little bit because he's a jerk to him, but he's kind of being a nice jerk to him. And here and there, he's treating him nice. Nope, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
Brian
scene.
Jackie,
Greasley.
yeah,
Oh,
Brendan
you know
Gleeson.
what? Another scene I think like really made him realize like he wasn't the Joker was when that fucking kid gets like choked out by the guards and he can hear him dying in his cell.
Yes.
Yeah, Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky, I think like when that happened, like and like he's laying in bed and you can just kind of see
You can hear the guards.
like you can see like
Yeah.
it but like that whole
His
persona
spirit
like
get broken.
fading away. He was like, "Man, I just got this fucking kid killed."
Yeah,
Yes.
But like
Yeah.
inadvertently by like my actions and what I said, like, and I think I forgot about that scene till just right now.
yeah.
But I think that was like one of the main things. Because then after that, I think we go back to the courtroom after that scene, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And it
So
was
I think it was something like it was like, him interacting with in the courtroom with Mr. Puddles, and then the guards that are normally super cool with him, just fucking him up, and then that kid getting killed. Like I think those three factors were what
Broke his
like
spirit.
broke
I,
his Joker
and
persona. If he ever really had it, you know what I'm saying? And I
Right.
think that was like what he was just like, you know what, I can't fucking do this anymore. Like there's enough people. I've killed enough people and enough people have died and I just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah. What were you
And
gonna
I
say,
feel
man?
bad for him,
uh
I did. I
Hmm.
felt bad for him. I was like, "Aw,
yeah.
Arthur, that fucking sucks,
Mhm.
dude.
yeah.
That kid was your friend and you just listened to him get murdered. Like fucked
Hmm.
up."
Oh yeah.
That was a brutal scene. What were you gonna say, Matt?
I think like where it all started, where he kind of started to understand he's not like that persona, is when they're walking down the hall. He got back from like a court day or whatever or something, and then like he asked them for a cigarette. And he goes, "Yeah, sure." He gives him a cigarette, and then he taps him on the back saying, "Thanks, pal," and then he smacks the shit out of him up right upside his head.
Yeah, Jackie,
Yeah,
the guard.
Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guard just smacks the fucking shit out of Arthur. because like I understood why the guard did that is because you're not pals,
Yeah, the
you know.
familiarity. You got to snap that out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so like I think that was start kind of like the start of that for him
Hmm.
because like
Mhm.
his other persona, like he feels untouchable. He is
Yeah.
not. He's in control
Mhm.
and things like that, right? And then like for someone to smack the shit out of you like that,
Hmm.
like it sends a hard message to you quick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What were you gonna say, Jen?
See, during that scene, in those scenes, I really thought that maybe, all that anger that was built inside of him for all the things that had happened to him. I think that that's why the Joker, if he had that Joker persona, that was gonna come into his defense. I was hoping for something like that for him to stand up for himself, and
Yeah,
for
that he was
people and
snap.
for people that clearly the system has failed them.
Yeah.
I thought that's
Mhm.
what the Joker was gonna become in him, is that sense of his own justice
Hmm.
for everything that had happened to him
Hmm.
during his life and what keeps happening.
Yeah. No, yeah, there were a couple of scenes where I kept, and especially the way they did with the music, the way they had the suspense build up to make you think something was gonna happen was really good. Because there was a lot of scenes where something is building up and they're using the music to make that build up, and you're wondering what's he gonna do. And even in his eyes, as he's looking at the characters interacting with him, you can see the murderous look in his eyes that this dude wants to do something.
Mhm.
And you're wondering, is he going to do it this time? Is he going to do it here? Is he going to do it
Mhm.
here? Because in his imagination and his mind, he was doing all these crazy things, like bludgeoning people, shooting people. And like, you're wondering, like, is he actually going to deliver at one point? And doesn't happen, but again the ending basically solves all that and puts everything into perspective.
Mhm.
And that's why I feel like people should give this movie a chance. Yeah, it's gonna come to stream soon, after us posting this episode. It should
Mhm.
be on stream the following week, if not by the end of the month, I think.
Oh man, that means they lost a lot of money in the box
Yeah,
I
they
office.
think the
lost but
29th, I think, or something like
yeah.
that.
So,
Oh
but I
wow.
mean, again, like it's not their fault. Like
Mhm.
they did what they could. The actors for sure did what they could. What they did, the acting was top notch in this movie. That much
Mhm.
I can say. The
Mhm.
the the
Yeah.
lady who played the
Lawyer.
lawyer, the
Yeah.
only the only one who was genuinely looking out for his safety,
Well-being for his
well
family.
being, he boots her to the side.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. As well, because Harley got in his
He
head.
hardly got it in his head.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
she had
and
warned him about her.
yeah, and even well, the lawyer had told him like this, you're gonna end up getting him in more trouble than you're not
And
helping
sure
him.
enough, she fucking did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, I
she was played by Catherine Keener, but I don't remember the name of the lawyer. Something Francis, I think.
that lady was fucking
Hmm.
awesome
Yeah,
though.
she was good.
Well, she was in the 4-year-old
Yeah,
virgin,
she was in the 40-year-old virgin. She was the
Like,
the teacher.
the love interest
Yeah,
of
the love
Steve
interest.
Carell.
now, dude, I just saw that. It's like, but that scene with Mr. Puddles was so fucking good. But it was also hard to watch
Mm-hmm.
because like when they're talking about like how he's like, "Oh, you're the only one that didn't make fun of me." He goes, "But then you made me feel like I'm the smallest person in the world, and you made me
Yeah.
realize how like powerless I really am."
Mm-hmm.
That dude was fucking
Yeah,
terrified of him.
like
Yeah, but then he also told him, but you know what? I promised you I wasn't gonna kill you, remember?
yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah, because in the film, he even
Mm-hmm.
tells in the first one, he even tells him like, don't worry, Gary, I'm not gonna hurt you. You're the
Yeah.
only one who was ever nice to him, and he gives him a kiss, and he lets him go on his
Mm-hmm.
way. Gary, in this one, you find out that he immediately goes to the police,
Yes.
and he tells them what Arthur did, and they put him in lockup to
Mm-hmm.
protect them. But the entire time, the poor guy is just like terrified, and from there on, he's just afraid for his life, which really sucks. And I feel for the guy. And that was one of those
Mm-hmm.
scenes where like my heart broke for his character and for Arthur's character because
Hmm.
one, these are two guys who both experienced the hardships of life together, and Arthur basically worsened his life not through any indirect direct action, but through the indirect action of killing what's his name, the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, who he even says, Mr. Blackout Flower. Who cares? Eh, Yeah, but regardless, great, not great. Well, for me and Jen, not the best film, but still a good film. Definitely worth watching. You guys have any final thoughts or any comments in regards to like why people shouldn't give this movie that much flack or flack for that matter?
Well, my final thought on that is if you want to watch a comic book portrayal of the Joker, go watch fucking Dark Knight and watch Heath Ledger. But if
Yeah,
you want
You
something
can
that's
watch
like
any other fucking Batman movie or Batman the Animated
yeah.
Series is
Even
a great
even
one
Batman
too.
true,
That's a
'89.
really great
I
portrayal of
think
the
the
Joker
best
for sure.
portrayal of Joker is Mask of the Phantasm. That was Mark Hamill at his best.
That was a
Great
good one.
fucking Batman movie. Probably the best Batman movie of all
I don't
time.
know.
But
I'm personally privy to Under the Red Hood, even though it's not an indirect movie about the Joker. It's heavily based around him and all the crap he's done. So that's
and
definitely one of my
fucking
favorites.
Jensen Ackles was really
Hell
good as
yeah!
Jason
As
Todd, dude.
Jason, heck yeah, good one
Yeah,
there. Even
yeah,
good Batman
that's
down
a
the line.
good contender. I
Hmm.
agree, that's a good contender. But if you back to my final thought, if you want to watch something that's really well grounded and like really because the story does still dive into mental health issues
Oh
and the
yeah,
system failing people. Like it's still all about that, and it's just a continuation of or the aftermath of what happened in the first one. And it's a really well told story, and it's done in a very unique way of it being a musical. Go watch it. Like if
hmm
you second you throw it out the fact that it's not a comic book movie, it's just a really good movie in general.
yeah. What about you, Lane? Any final thoughts?
You know, it's an ogre. It's got layers, you know. So you just gotta like yeah, like the first thing is don't go in like with comic book mentality. Rule number one. That's the first rule. And if you can get past that rule, then you can actually enjoy it for just a movie that really just talks about stuff that like I think everybody nowadays especially deals with.
Oh
Like
yeah,
everyone's got some mental shit going on. Like the world is fucking a hot dumpster fire right now. And I think like yeah, you can't go in with like this is the Joker, this is DC, this is everything. Yes, it's a movie that takes place in Gotham. Yes, there are some DC characters that we're introduced to, but like I don't know, I don't really think like it deserves to be hated on as much as it does, especially when it's just an expansion of like stuff that happened in the first movie. Like,
exactly.
like
They
we
wrapped up the
didn't
story. That's basically what they did.
yeah, like they
Hmm.
just gave us more like information and more insight of what was actually like what's actually going on in Arthur's head. Like, like I think they really did a good job with that. And the fact that they chose music, I don't think was a bad choice. I think the first movie had a lot of musical like Im- implying there was a lot of music happening with that character already. We just didn't see it or hear it. And now they're like, well, now you get to see and hear all his fucking weird why he's dancing to no music at all, but he's just like doing these weird dancing moves whenever he thinks of something or he's by himself. And it's like, well, now we get to see what it is. And people just fucking lost their shit and hated it. Plus, I think everyone just kind of hates Lady Gaga and anything she's in.
I'm not a huge fan
Because
of her,
everyone
but
just
I can appreciate
yeah,
a little bit.
like there's just a lot of Gaga hate out there. So I think the fact that she was in it was just gonna piss everyone off,
You
regardless
know,
if it was a musical or not. It's just like get over it. She's weird, but she's not bad. She went to school for acting. Like she can act. She's an actress. Like she went to school for it. So
Mhm.
just cut her some slack. She did a great job. Like any role she's been in acting, she's nailed it.
Watch her
And
in
so
The
I think
Star
there's
Is
just a
Born. That's a good one.
I
yeah, so I think a lot of people just hated the fact that she was in this movie. as well. And I think a lot of people just went in like with a negative attitude about that as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't
Well,
know. I thought it was great. I didn't think there was anything wrong except for they left out some scenes that I was expecting to see and they weren't there, but I don't think that was enough to warrant walking out of the fucking theater or bombing it with like 1-star reviews and like zeros on Rotten Tomato or whatever the hell. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
you
as of
know,
right now, it's the lowest rated DC film in the whole, DC lineup. You got something else, Matt?
yeah, I was gonna ask, why do people hate Lady Gaga? I mean, this is my first movie I ever saw her in it, and yeah, she can act. Like, I had no problem with her role. I'm
I
just
just
trying to
think
understand this Lady Gaga hate. Like, what the fuck did she do?
Um, I think they've just always. I mean, I think the hate for her stems from just her wearing weird shit
Mhm.
and
Just tone
not
it down as of
apologizing
late.
for it. Um, there's just a lot of reasons why people don't like her as just a general human being and existing in the world. And I think it's just because she pushed a lot of boundaries and she just made a lot of people feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And when you
Oh,
make
so
and
it's a
when you make
bunch of
people feel
bitches crying.
uncomfortable, they're just gonna hate you no matter what you do.
So,
And let's be real, like this is a movie where probably a very heavy male fan base,
mhm.
and
That's true.
men kind of just never really got Gaga. Gay men got Gaga. Women got
Yeah, they did.
Gaga, but straight hetero men never got her. And I think seeing her in their safe space, their comic space, like really just like put a bad taste in their mouth
Had
from
they
the very
never heard of
beginning.
fucking David Bowie? Like,
There's no room for weird
Really?
chicks in comic books.
No, and it's not even just that. It's just the fact that she was the one being the villain this time.
Yeah,
Yeah. They didn't want
yeah,
that to be taken away from what they thought the Joker was supposed to be.
Mhm.
You
that
know?
too. Yeah.
oh
So
my
I
god,
think that's part of the most of the hate that
fucking losers.
Yeah, the world is full of them. We're surrounded by them. We're
well,
drowning in
Surrounded by
losers.
idiots.
well, it's because it's the same thing as like the gatekeeping stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of is turned into something like they already know like it's a Joker that they know and this is what they want him to stay as and they don't want him to change.
Yeah. It's Anchor
You know?
Man, not Anchor Lady.
Even though in the comic series like there's different versions, you know? But
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
all wanted to stick to the
DC
same
has like
thing.
DC has 1,000 different universes.
That's true. And I think
This
it's been established
this
that this is a world in the Batman universe. It's just not the
Mhm.
world we're all used to, the
Yes.
universe we're all used to.
Mm.
I think somebody dubbed it Universe 999 because it's weird.
Yeah,
Um,
but I think honestly, like most, I feel like most of the most successful like DC stuff has been like DC is dark and gritty
Mhm.
and
it's
gross,
always been. It's awesome.
scary. It's not right
it's
in your face. We're superheroes. Let's do it. Like
It's not
fucking
the
Marvel,
campy.
like
It's not
shoving like the
campy.
good guy persona down your fucking throat. And so I think the movie fit very well in that like dark, gritty, gross DC kind of like detective comic. That's what fucking DC stands for, Detective Comics.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
they
hello, like
yeah,
what is
a lot of their
that?
comics. I mean, a lot of their comics, aside from like Superman, because he's the bright hope. He's fucking the Boy
Yeah,
Scout and
he's
all that shit.
Wonder Boy.
But yeah,
He's America's boy.
aside from Suits, like DC does borrow a lot of like noir type of
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of
storytelling.
their heroes are dark.
Yeah, like the
yeah,
Question.
Question, Ghost,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Dead Man,
Spectre.
Spectre,
yeah.
Constantine,
It's
Mm-hmm.
the
Dark.
voices.
And
Yeah,
so when you think about it, like all of those movies that have the actual DC feel, fucking people hate them.
That's
hate
true.
them.
Yeah.
They hate them because it's if they take it and they compare it to Marvel's like CG and explosions and bright colorful costumes and all of this shit, and then they
All the
sit and
dumb
they
jokes.
compare it, but you can't because they're two extremely
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So I just think like DC is always gonna have a hard time because people don't get that it's not fucking Marvel.
That's
Yeah.
true. What are you gonna
So
say, Jen?
But it's because people that I think the people that do that have those, like, we don't like it because it's dark or because it's this or that, it's because they don't really know DC then, you know?
No, I
Yeah.
think we do.
They probably never read the comic books. The anything they've ever seen is probably just in TV what they saw as kids, like
Yeah.
animated series and all that stuff. But they never took the time to actually dive into the comics,
Or they
like
only
where
read the
well,
new
they were taking the
52s.
source material from.
dude,
They
but
only saw that
even
Wonder Woman movie. I'm just kidding.
well, but the Batman animated series is fucking dark.
Yeah,
Like Batman goes
yeah,
into
but
a
they
sewer system to rescue kidnapped kids, and then the weird
exactly.
dude
But
fucking
they made it in a way
conditions
that
them.
they made it
Like,
in a way where it's like kind of campy
I
still,
blame
you know?
Adam West for that. He can't beat it up.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. I love the bat dance, shark repellent in your belt. That's always awesome.
Yeah.
But I think after they campied
Mhm.
Batman, I think they forgot
Yeah.
just how dark and gritty he is and how the
not
DC universe is, how
not
dark it is.
really, because after the 60s and a little bit after, I mean, think about Arkham City
Yeah.
or the Arkham series. That's a dark, gritty game.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
But like
Yeah.
even in the Justice League, even when there was like dark episodes, they still made it like in a light way, like they
Yeah.
tried
Oh,
to
okay. Well, they had to make it kid friendly somehow.
Yeah.
exactly, and that's where the problem lies. The people that were watching this as kids or young adults not grew up and that don't know this actual source material.
Exactly.
That's
Like they
true. I
see
So they're
mean,
trying to
they
compare it
see
to things that they watched as kids or teens.
Yeah, they see Arrow making a joke about a realistic dream
Yeah.
while Kara's having an existential crisis because she got cloned, but
Yeah.
they forget how dark DC
Yes.
is, man.
mhm.
It's dark.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking Green Arrow and Green Lantern. There's a book with them where they're looking for Speedy, and like Speedy gets hooked on heroin and shit,
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
like fucking Green Arrow backhands the fuck out of Speedy. Like,
Yeah.
you don't do that
Like
shit.
my psychic isn't gonna be a junkie, yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah, like
definitely
I don't
definitely
see Marvel doing that shit.
yeah, definitely the film doesn't deserve the hate it got, and I definitely feel like hopefully time will redeem it.
It
Especially
might be.
it's gonna be since it's gonna be on streaming, more people are probably gonna see it because it's probably not gonna cost them that much more to see it,
Yes.
especially if they have the subscription service. So maybe that will make people turn it around, or maybe if they're like me and they watch it a second time without that mentality that it's not a comic book movie, they'll be like, oh, okay, you know what? This is actually a pretty good telling of mental health and basically
Yes.
what society does to
And
people.
you can also tell the audience that if they want to need to remember what the first one was really about, maybe they should give it another take
Yeah, watch that one
and
again.
then
Yeah.
watch
And then
the
watch this one.
Joker.
Yeah.
And then now it's a musical, so now you're gonna go knowing, okay, so music it is gonna be musical numbers are gonna be expected, and don't be surprised by it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you are the kind of person that doesn't like musicals, then I don't suggest you watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you stop being a bitch
There's that too. But
and have an open mind and understand that
Mhm.
movies is art and there's different versions of it.
yeah. But yeah, definitely check it out, folks. If you haven't seen it, you can wait till it streams, but you could probably watch it in theaters. It should still be in theaters by the time we post this
Mhm.
episode. And just like when it comes to the whole mental health thing, like don't ignore it. Definitely seek what help you can get. There's a lot of hotlines out there. There's websites you can go to.
Mhm.
I'll leave links on the description on my YouTube so you can check them out. Um, don't be afraid to ask for help, whether you're a man or a woman or
Yes.
whatever you're going through. And be kind to one another. This is another whole thing that
Yes.
we constantly say on the Media Bug Guys. Just be nice to each other. Share your opinions, but do it in a in a kind and respectful manner. If you don't like the film, great. That's your prerogative. You don't have to threaten Joaquin Phoenix or Lady Gaga. You don't have to threaten the studios. Don't watch the movie if you don't think it was gonna be good, or don't review bomb it just because it didn't appeal to you.
And also give it a chance, like don't go by critics' opinions
For reals.
or anybody else, out there. Experience it yourself.
Yeah.
And then once you've experienced it, if you don't like it, then that's your own personal opinion.
Yeah, that's your prerogative.
I
Yeah.
mean, you don't lose anything.
No, you're not losing. You're not losing. I mean, $20 maybe if you go see it in
Well, if
theaters,
you
but
don't want to see it in theaters, you can always wait for streaming. You don't really have to
yeah,
go to the theater.
or bootleg it. A lot of bootleg stuff.
Pirate Bay.
I know. We at the Media Buff guys do not condone any kind of piracy.
You wouldn't steal a car, would you?
Nice. All right, folks. Well, that's our episode. Thank you for tuning in. As always, if you're on my YouTube, please remember hit that like button and subscribe. Comment below. We'll definitely answer you. If you want to reach us, you can hit us up on the Media Buff guys on Instagram. We will definitely answer your messages. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, please give us a like and a follow. So that being said, everybody say bye.
Bye.
Get your shit and get out.